Hey crafty people, it's Tasha. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making a card using some goodies from Honeybee Stamps. I've had their Lovely Layers rose for an embarrassing number of weeks and not had a chance to use it yet, so I loved cracking this out. And I'm using the gorgeous Team Tie-Dye pattern paper. I've used this before in posts. I just love it. It's amazing. So I decided to cut all of my rose layers from this pattern paper. So I chose two pieces that had the same sort of colours and tone, but some darker, some lighter, just to give me a little bit of that natural shadow. So I die cut all of my pieces before I get started. I also die cut the little bud and the stem and various leaf pieces and things. I die cut all of those from some mossy cardstock from the stamp market. So next up, I'm going to lay out all of my pieces, and this is going to give you an idea of what goes where. So it can look a little bit intimidating at first, but you really are just layering one piece on top of another. So I did a little practice run first of all, where I am setting the various bits down in the order that they go, so that I know that I have that right in my head, and that's going to give me a sort of idea of what the finished piece is going to look like. I decided that I wanted more dimension. I went all out. So I used some of these scraps from where I die cut all of the pieces, and I just cut some little chunks of those scraps and use those instead of adding foam tape or anything like that to the back of each piece. I've just been doing that recently, and I find that it works really well, and it's much less wasteful than using foam tape all the time. So I've added 2 layers onto the back of that second piece, and then I'm going to glue that straight on to the back piece or the first piece, whichever way you want to look at it. And that's just going to give us just some subtle dimension at this point, but it does build up, and it builds up quickly. I didn't want to glue down the entire piece because I want to be able to tease out those layers. So I just added some pieces sort of to the lower to middle area of each piece. I'm adding 2 pieces of cardstock at a time behind each layer. I did realise that I wanted the bottom of my rose to not be dimensional, so I wanted it to look like the very bottom of the rose is coming from the same place as it would naturally. So I added just a ton of glue there. I held it down, and then I did use my reverse action tweezers to pinch that as well until that glue dried. And then I continued adding more and more layers. As you can see, it's really building up now. Here is the last layer. It's a really small one, but I did still add a little bit of dimension to that as well. Again, just using scraps. This is all stuff that would have just gone in the bin. So, use it. It's good for the environment. It's also good for your pocket. So once I've got them all stuck together, I am just using my fingers to sort of tease apart the layers, bend them up a little bit, and I absolutely love how it looks. So I put together the leaves and stems and bud just in the same way, but I did use the same colour cardstock for each bit, so that if you do look between the layers, it's not going to be obvious because there's not going to be any like bright white foam or anything showing. So another product that I've had for ages and been wanting to try and just haven't found the time is this stamping foam. So this is from Simon Hurley. I'm going to make a cool background with it. I'm using some of the Honeybee and Wow collaboration powders. They are gorgeous. I'm going to use a couple of those on today's card. So with the stamping foam, you start by heating it up. You can't really see when it's heated and ready. You just kind of have to do your best to heat it all the way across. And then you're going to press it into something to get to get a pattern. So I'm using the Circle Frames die. The first time I did it, I was very underwhelmed. So I just heated it again, because that's the best thing about this stuff. You just reheat it and it will go to flat again, and you can use it for something else. Awesome. So yeah, I reheated it and I did it again and put a little bit more elbow grease into pushing it this time. And look how that came out. It's awesome. I love it. Amazing. So I inked it up with some Wow Ultra Slow embossing ink, and then I'm going to stamp it down onto an A2 piece of Nina Solar White, and then I'm going to use the it's the yellow powder. I will have them linked. I do apologise, but they're like Be True, Be Kind, Be something. I can never remember which is which. So I'm using the yellow powder to add onto that background. So this is like, it's yellow, but it's like a deep sort of almost ambery yellow. And there's some gold sheen, and yeah, it's just really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. And I love how that stamping foam has allowed me to make this background that I would never normally be able to stamp, because I don't have a stamp like this. So it's really stretching your supplies, and I couldn't believe how inexpensive that stamping foam is. So I have got the large ones, because I wanted to be able to do a full panel like this. But they were just like a couple of pounds. And you get 2 in the pack, so it's awesome, really it is. As I'm heat setting this, it's really difficult to see on camera how to know when that powder is done, but you can tell if you've got the light shining on it. In person you can see when it changes. You can see there that the light is bouncing off all of it. If there's any dull areas on your embossing, then it means that that part of the powder isn't done yet and needs to be heated up a little bit more. I wanted to have a bit of a border on another sheet of cardstock, so I've just swiped the edges all the way across my ink pad, just make sure they're really fully inked up. And then I'm going to use this dark blue sparkly, another one of the Honeybee powders, to add some sort of depth and dimension. And this one is a lot easier to see on camera when it changes. So you can see that the glitter that's within it sort of moves. And I like to think of it that as the embossing powder melts, the glitter kind of shifts a little bit to lay down and sink into the melted embossing powder. So that's why you can see the glitter move. And again, if there's a dull area, then you need to just heat set that a bit more. So I've trimmed down the yellow bullseye background, and I'm just adding my beautiful rose onto there. I did sort of plan out first to make sure that I was going to have it where I wanted it, and then I'm just using my reverse action tweezers to put that into place. Now, I like the Honeybee glue because it's really strong, and it has no problem sticking, to embossing or anything like that. I trimmed down the little stem for the bud so that I could tuck it behind my leaf, and yeah, it's just so cute. So for my sentiment, I've stamped out just its congrats. I've stamped it and embossed it in that same blue sparkly embossing powder, and then I've die cut it, and I'm just going to add it here going across my rose. But I wanted to make sure that it was level, where there are parts that are on the rose, parts that aren't. I don't want that to get crushed or anything, so I'm just adding some strips of, again, just scrap card behind the parts of it that are not going to be sitting directly on the leaves or stem, and centered that in that piece. Then I've added 2 pieces of cardstock behind that bullseye panel, and then I'm going to glue that onto my bigger panel. So that's why I didn't need to put the embossing all the way across the panel, because you're not going to see it. What's the sense in wasting it? And I applied that to an A2 card base, and then I'm going to use my Tool-and-One to grab a few of these beautiful gems and just dot them around the design. I love these rainbow gems from Honeybee, and I'm really, really happy because they were a freebie when I ordered from Honeybee, because they give you freebies and it's a different one every month, and I just love these rainbow gems. I was so happy to get them. Let me know what you think about the card, and also, have you got lots of things in your stash that you haven't used yet? Please tell me I'm not the only one. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you aren't subscribed already, and even if you are, make sure you hit that notification bell so you know whenever I post a new video. I hope that you have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.